Is Spaceballs Mel Brooks' greatest comedy? Let's find out. Hey everybody, Justin Watches Movies here. If you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. If you like movies, Funko Pops, Blu-rays, and free stuff, consider subscribing and hitting that bell notification so you don't miss anything. I'm so excited to get my review out for you guys for Spaceballs. What is a Spaceball? Spaceballs is a comedy written and directed by Mel Brooks, which is a parody of Star Wars. And guys, it is a treat. But before I get into my thoughts on Spaceballs, I would like to invite Jeffito's movie blog to give his thoughts on Spaceballs. So Jeff, what do you think about this 80s comedy classic, Spaceballs?
Hey Justin, thank you for having me on your channel to talk about one of my all-time favorite comedies, Spaceballs. Now, I first saw Spaceballs back in middle school at a friend's house, and I immediately loved it. There was so much to enjoy right from the start, with the opening crawl, and then the overly long shot of Spaceball 1, which of course was mocking the overhead shot of the Star Destroyer chasing the Tantive 4 from the original Star Wars film. Rick Moranis is great as Dark Helmet. Right from the very introduction, you see him enter the room, Darth Vader style breathing as he intimidates everyone, and then he frantically lifts off his face mask and says, "I can't breathe in this thing!" Rick Moranis was a mainstay in 1980s comedies, and I totally respect and understand why he left movies, but damn, watching this again made me wish that he would come out of retirement and do a few more films. The guy is a legend, and easily one of the best parts of this movie. We are then introduced to Princess Vespa on her wedding day, where she has to marry the last prince in the galaxy, Prince Valium. Now, she doesn't love him, but because Valium is the only prince left in the galaxy, she has to marry him anyway. We then witness Princess Vespa going right past the altar, heading down the ramp and out the door, as she runs out of her own wedding, her droid of honor dot matrix right behind her. Lone Star and Barf, played wonderfully by Bill Pullman and the late, great John Candy, receive a video call from Pizza the Hut telling them that they need to pay him 1 million space bucks by tomorrow, or else, as Vinny says, pizza will send out for you. Luckily, right after that, they receive another video call from King Roland, who begs them to help him find Princess Vespa and return her home. Lone Star and Barf agree to do so for the price of 1 million space bucks so that they can pay off Pizza. And that pretty much launches us into the story. There are so many jokes in this movie mocking not only Star Wars, but also Star Trek, Alien, Planet of the Apes, and countless other sci-fi movies from the late 70s and early 80s. Mel Brooks is fantastic in both his roles, as President Scroob and especially as Yogurt. I enjoyed the scene when we are first introduced to Yogurt, and he talks about merchandising, where the real money of the movie is made. Spaceballs is printed on everything. T-shirts, lunchboxes, stuffed animals, and even a flamethrower. It is a brilliant send-up to the merchandising of Star Wars. Sadly, none of the merchandise ever made its way to the real stores, because apparently that was one of George Lucas's conditions before he could sign off on this parody. One of my favorite scenes is when President Scroob orders the troops to comb the desert in order to find Lone Star and the princess. The next scene, you see the Spaceball troops in the desert with these giant combs, literally combing the desert. Another classic scene involves Dark Helmet and Colonel Sanders watching the VHS tape of Spaceballs the movie to find out where Lone Star and the princess are. They fast forward, and suddenly, because they're still in the middle of making the movie, they're at now. Everything that happens now is happening now. It's a really funny scene, and if you look at the shelves, all the other videos on the shelves are other Mel Brooks movies. There are so many visual gags in this movie, and oftentimes they work better than the jokes themselves. The problem with spoof movies nowadays, not that we get that many anymore, but when we do, the problem is that they go for the easy jokes. They go for the lowest common denominator. They play on current pop culture that will be forgotten in 2 or 3 years. They are riddled with poop jokes, and fart jokes, and sex jokes. And I think that's what makes movies like Spaceballs and other Mel Brooks films, and other classic spoof movies like Airplane, Naked Gun, Hot Shots. Those kind of movies are smart comedies. Yeah, some of the jokes are dated. Not all of them land as well as they did back in the day, but there's still enough there that 30 years later, we can look back and still have a great time watching. This may not be as great as some of Mel Brooks' other comedies, like Blazing Saddles or Young Frankenstein, but it still does hold up pretty well, and there's still plenty of jokes to laugh at here. Rewatching it the other day, some of it is dated, and it wasn't quite as funny as I remembered it being, but it was still a great time. I'm sure some of it is nostalgia, not only for the movie itself, but also for the parody and jokes related to Star Wars and other sci-fi properties that it mocks. If you're a fan of Star Wars and have not seen this parody, you should probably just drop what you're doing right now and check it out right away. It's just a fun, goofy comedy that still elicits plenty of smiles and occasional laughter. Overall, Spaceballs was a really fun time 30 years ago, and it's still a fun time now. Thanks again for having me on, Justin, and may the Schwartz be with you always.
Thank you, Jeff, for joining my channel for the first time. I really do appreciate you coming over to my channel. Make sure you guys go over to Jeff's channel and give him a like and tell him Just Watch His Movie sent you. Spaceballs was the first Mel Brooks movie that I've seen. There is a lot. And Spaceballs was in the later part of his career. Previously, he had Blazing Saddles, History of the World Part 1, a silent movie, and Spaceballs ranks alongside some of his best work. I'm a huge fan of parody works and movies that spoof other genres, and Spaceballs is just one of the best ones I've seen. It takes everything that we love about Star Wars and flips it on its head and makes fun of it. For example, Dark Helmet. He is the epitome of a classic villain. He wears all black, he even has a black tux. The guy is classy. But he is played ridiculously by Rick Moranis and pokes so much fun at the classic villain, Darth Vader. Also in this movie is John Candy, rest in peace, and Bill Pullman, amongst others. And each person in this movie definitely plays their part really well. Some characters do lack some character development, but that's okay because they are really funny. This movie is so darn quotable, so funny all the time. And each scene, there's at least one or two lines that I felt that I've said many, many times before in my life. This movie, it's just that memorable. Like I said, there's not a lot of character development, and that's due to the fact that this movie is really quickly paced as well. They jump into the plot really fast, and that doesn't allow time for the characters to get enough development. But their chemistry works, and the characters do work. They are spot on hilarious. And when they meet Yogurt, the wise and powerful old Yogurt, it is clear that they are just poking so much fun at Star Wars. There's even other movies that they reference like Star Trek and Alien. So overall, I found Spaceballs to be hilarious. The characters are quirky. They have a clear view for the villains. It is definitely one of my favorite Mel Brooks movies. Not his best, but definitely one of my favorites. I do really enjoy Robin Hood Men in Tights and Blazing Saddles. Those are two great films. So have you seen Spaceballs? What'd you think about it? Leave your thought down below for Spaceballs. And if you guys like this videos and movies, Funko Pops, free stuff, and Blu-rays, make sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss out on anything. And go over to Jeffito's movie blog. That guy is awesome. Make sure to subscribe to his channel. He creates content just like me, and I would appreciate it if you showed him some love. You guys are the best as always. This is Just Watch Movies, and you stay classy, YouTube.